Porto is a joy to visit, even solo. See what I covered in 3 days with day trips on my first visit to Porto, a must-visit UNESCO World Heritage City on the Douro River. If you're planning your first visit to Porto, take advantage of all the Porto resources I have for you, including upcoming Porto videos, especially the Know Before You Go travel guide, my Porto trips below for your easy booking, or just save a ton of time and download one of my ready-made itineraries with travel guides and links, ideal in getting the best of Porto in a short time. Subscribe to CORR Travel and follow along for more fantastic itineraries, guides, and tips to inspire your travel. Now, take a spin with me for a few days in and around Porto. After spending a few days in Madrid, I flew into Porto in mid-October for 4 nights and 3 days to mark the start of my Portugal solo trip. From the airport, I quickly caught the metro to my Baixa district accommodation in time to do some quick exploration with the sunset over the Douro River and grab a light meal at the Casa Guides rooftop bar before turning in early and saving my energy for Porto's hills the next day. My visit to Portugal was a mix of vacation and getting ideas of where to live in Portugal, so I got a late morning start. Luckily, many of Porto's historic landmarks and sites were close by, so I could still see a lot on my first full day in Porto. I had no real agenda. Thankfully, the weather was incredible, so I could take advantage of being outside to view the city center, which is on a steep incline. Prepared with good walking shoes, I started at Baixa's higher elevation and made my way downhill throughout the day to just explore the picturesque neighborhoods, lively dining and shopping streets, and the well-preserved scenic Ribeira district and promenade, part of the UNESCO designation, where you can dine or catch a Douro River cruise if you have the time. One particular item I did want to do was sample port in Vila Nova de Gaia, the port production area of Porto. After crossing the Luís I Bridge, also part of the UNESCO designation, I meandered the Avenida de Ramos Pinto, enjoying the classic views of Porto, vendor shopping, and noting the multiple Gaia port houses that line the Avenida, which you can stop into or visit as part of a port tasting tour. I landed at Porto Cruise, which was recommended to me. Sitting outside for a late afternoon 5-port tasting with nibbles, while people watching as the sun slowly started to set. The views of Porto cannot be beat at this time of day from Gaia. Forgetting the time, I failed to catch the Teleférico de Gaia that stops at 6, so I walked across the river to the top of the bridge and heading back to Baixa to find a light dinner and another early night in to rest for a long excursion tomorrow. Day 2 started earlier with an 8 a.m. pickup to begin a small group tour of another UNESCO World Heritage Site, the Alto Douro wine region, and the highlight of my Porto stay. Trust me, this is a must-do from Porto, which I recommend booking in advance. In just over an hour, the 4 of us, including Pedro, our tour guide, were stopping to see sweeping views of the terraced valley and birthplace of port wine, and learning about Porto's winemaking history. We then drove into Pinhão for a short coffee break before departing on our 1-hour boat ride on the Douro River. We are in the heart of port wine-making country, and it is absolutely gorgeous. It's in October, it's a little bit chilly, but I'm sure it's going to warm up. It's still in the morning, so this is grand. We're getting ready to get on the boat and take a cruise down the river. Another awesome day of weather allowed for clear visibility of the hillside and vineyard-set quintas that offer wine tastings and accommodations. After the river cruise was an authentic Portuguese lunch with wine at a small family restaurant, learning more about the local cuisine and port from Pedro, and viewing some of the oldest tiles in Portugal depicting the region's history at the Pinhão train station. Then it was off to 2 wine houses for tours, tastings, with locally made food pairings while overlooking the river. This Douro Valley day trip was unforgettable, and it still left time to see more of Porto upon return. I opted to forego the whole day in Porto on my last day because I really wanted to see more of Portugal beyond Porto. Thankfully, Porto is ideally situated for day trips, from historical and UNESCO sites to beach towns and more wine tasting. Another epic weather day, I instead walked more around Porto. Then I was off to São Bento station, taking in the intricate artwork of the iconic blue tiled walls, before buying an inexpensive round-trip ticket for my self-guided day trip to Braga. In an hour, I was arriving in Braga, and within minutes passing through the Porta Nova Arch to explore this quaint, picturesque Portuguese town, and gateway to the Peneda Gerês National Park and Vinho Verde wine region, one of my favorite wines. I read about the Casa de Pasto Cabralheiras on a Portugal website, so this is where I had a late lunch of petiscos, local Vinho Verde, and dessert on the patio. It was the perfect respite. Lovely staff and incredible food. I definitely recommend stopping here for lunch. Then it was off to walk more of the city center. And then a little more time for crispa Vinho Verde with traditional egg yolk pudding at Dona Patista. Why not? Before riding the train back to Porto, in time for my last entry ticket to the 18th century Baroque Caledros Church, and climbed the bell tower's 225 steps before it closed for 360 views and one last sunset over Porto, the perfect way to end a 3-day stay. I may not have spent all day every day in Porto, but I still had a wonderful time. My centrally located hostel was ideal for my budget stay, easily getting from the airport by metro, seeing everything I wanted to in Porto on foot, being situated for my tour pickup and close to the São Bento station for my Braga day trip, both of which nicely complemented my time in Porto, and catching a ride out of Porto to my next Portugal destination, Coimbra.